Hey, good evening out there. It's Tim with you, and we're starting 30 minutes early. I don't know if that came up in the title, but presidential debates are tonight, and I know some of you are probably going to catch that, and I might myself, and so we better not conflict with that. But let's take a quick look at what's going on across the U.S. High pressure settling in here across Texas, driving a northwesterly flow through much of Texas. So we're getting the post-frontal air here in our place down here in the south, and a little post-frontal precipitation along the I-10 corridor. Taking a quick look at the satellite, you can see everything is pretty much pushed down to the southern part of the U.S. We are seeing what's left of the frontal system moving into the northeast right here. You can see a classic comma shape. Got the dry slot working in from the southwest into Michigan and Indiana. And back behind it, there's the cold core low right there over Lake Superior. All right, let's see here. What am I? My slides here are kind of out of order because I kind of put this together very quickly. So I guess I'll take you to Earl Barker's website. This is a website at, hang on, I need to see if this is coming out here. Yeah, there you go. wxcaster.com. This is a website for viewing models that's been out probably about 12 or 13 years. And we can click on this model forecasts, and you can see a bunch of different options here for viewing models. And they even give us the very hard to get foreign models, and that's what we'll cover for this edition. So they do give us a little bit of the ECMWF data through Earl's website, but we're only getting the medium range fields here, so nothing before 72 hours, which is lame, but that's how Europe chooses to do its weather data. But for what we can get, yeah, there's some fairly decent data there. And this is where you really have to pay attention to the basics of analyzing fronts. We've kind of covered this when we've been going through some of these charts. You can see the thickness gradient back here. This is a forecast for 96 hours, and this implies that the surface front is something like this. So probably a warm front up there in Manitoba and a cold front through California and Oregon. It looks like a little bit of a lee side trough right here through the front range area of the Rockies. And things get a little bit more tricky when you get to the UK Met data. Of course, England has their own model forecast, and it's very similar to the GFS. They run it on some very fast supercomputers. But we're only limited to the upper air mandatory levels. And 850 is about as good as we can get for sea level pressure in this range. And pretty much this is going back to the basics again. We use frontal analysis. We are looking at temperature in red here. So a surface front is likely going to be located right through here in Tennessee and Kentucky. And in fact, you would actually shift that a little bit towards the warm air to find where the surface front is. So maybe the surface front's going to be somewhere in here. But this is only about 5,000 feet off the ground, so there's the cold push coming through the Lake Superior area, and the warm push is in the Carolinas and Georgia. That's moving north. So that kind of tells you where your air masses are. So warm air mass right through here, pretty good chance that there's a front right through here, and then a cold front through Kentucky and down to Arkansas, kind of like that. So you can use these charts here for finding the surface fronts. It looks like our next front is coming in from the Pacific right here. So we can see a change in the wind direction. Portland here is out of the south at 10. Then offshore we have west at about 10 to 15. Actually, maybe that warm front is about like that. So anyway, that's kind of how you work with those charts. So you do have to kind of get creative and get familiar with the basics when you're going through these limited data sets. Now, Canada is a little bit better about their models. You know, I guess they have a reputation of being polite, and they're certainly that way with their data. They've got quite a few fields here. Got sea level pressure from 0 all the way out to 144 hours. So let's see what they've got at 144 hours. So this is the Canadian model, and they've got a cold front moving through Utah and Nevada, so something like that. So that's our next system coming in for the first week of October. So a lot of stuff to look at there, and that's at that wexcaster.com page. Since we're getting in more of a baroclinic pattern, I'm going to start using these sites a little bit more. So let's go ahead and go into our forecast for the next week. First thing I've got to do is set this window up so it's in about the right place. There you go. So starting out at 0Z. Guys, you know, I forgot. We need to look at digital atmosphere here, because we don't like to just dive into the models. We kind of like to see what's going on using the actual data. So this is that streamline analysis, and this shows us we've got a frontal system going through New York, right there around Syracuse, down to Scranton, and down to Washington, D.C. So this is that push of cool air coming in from the Lake Superior, Minnesota area. So we're going to look for this when we go to the models. And there's a little bit of a fetch of warm air along the east coast. So it's looking like we've probably got the tail end of this front coming into Georgia, kind of like this. So as we go south, we catch some of that northerly flow through Arkansas and Texas. And that front goes all the way down to Mexico. Looks like a couple more systems coming in on the west coast. This looks like maybe a front here around San Diego. And maybe something going on here in Oregon. And low pressure in Colorado. See that convergent flow coming together right there. So those are some things to look at. Let's look at the actual surface data and look very quickly what's going on in the desert southwest. There we go. We got kind of a convergent pattern. Look at those cool temperatures in Phoenix, 82. It's cooling down there. And you can see that convergent flow right there. That could be the remains of that old hurricane that we had in the Colorado River Basin through here. And 100 degrees there at Fresno. Just no relief for California, even though it's almost October here. 92 inland here, 88 at Portland, 98 there at Red Bluff. Man, this is some wicked weather for this time of year out there. So that's just kind of a quick look at what's going on. So now we can look at the models and have a coherent picture of what's going on. So moving forward, looks like we've got the barotropic cold core low moving through the Lake Superior area. The main baroclinic push is out here in Vermont and Connecticut. So maybe the front is something like that, wrapping around to an occluded front like that. So moving forward, looks like that cold core low kind of drifts into Ohio. So kind of unsettled weather there. Looks like another push of cool air coming into the northern plains. Very good push there. That should keep things on the mild side in Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. We see a big 1035 high in Northwest Territories over the weekend. So this is going to continue to reinforce this push of cool air into the central U.S. And we should see some long-wave troughing across the central U.S. with that. And we start getting a little bit of a southerly flow redeveloping in the plains, but you can see that's fed by recirculated air from Georgia, the Carolinas, and Tennessee. And look what's coming into the picture there. There comes a hurricane. We've been watching this over the past few days. The GFS is going with a northward movement out of the Dominican Republic. And let's check out that system there. This is Invest 97L, just north of, forgot the names of these, Guyana, I think, just north of Brazil. System is moving right now towards St. Vincent, the Leeward Islands there, Grenada. And the NHC forecast, pretty much taking that right into the Caribbean, so that's got a reasonable shot of affecting the U.S. Things are still pretty much up in the air which way that's going to move. And just to show you, these are the tracks on Invest 97L. So we're looking at almost definite movement from all these different models, suggesting the corridor is going to go right into the middle of the Caribbean. Then after that, it's anybody's guess. There's a few systems here going for a curvature over Dominican Republic. A lot of them, though, are continuing those into Jamaica. So let's see here. I guess you know what's coming up next. So this is where we cover a little bit of geography. And this is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to do any real tricks here. So we're looking down a freeway here. Where could that be? Very flat. See some lakes, kind of a marshy appearance here. Very wet fields here, flat fields. So where could this be? Well, it could be anywhere in the central U.S., maybe even part of the Carolinas. But let's see, that's going to be, let me reset Google Earth. That's going to be right here. All these farmland, we zoom out. We are in the Mississippi River region of Missouri, near the Boot Heel. And that's an important seismic area. Possible earthquake threat there over the next 30, 40 years. There's a big risk of a multi-billion-dollar earthquake, and you can see the seismic hazard there. Kind of set it. We got pretty much a bullseye there from north of Memphis to Blytheville and all the way up to New Madrid. So why do we have a seismic risk there? We're in between tectonic plates. There's the North American plate, nothing there. There appears to be some sort of deep fault running through that area, kind of a hot spot. It's very poorly understood, but we are looking at a risk there. You can probably do some research on that. There was a guy back in the 90s, Ivan Browning, I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He was forecasting a catastrophic earthquake there back in the 90s. And he was a climatologist. He had no seismic background. The media ate that up, though. And of course, nothing happened. So, however, there is definitely a risk there. So, it's just a matter of when. Let me see if I'm all tapped out here. 747. That's all the charts I got there. I'll just give you a quick look at the upper data for the next week. Looks like broken up into a lot of closed systems here. We got a high ridge through the central U.S. and this cutoff low here. This is kind of a mess. And then we start developing some troughing out through the central U.S. over the next week through the first week of October there. So it should be starting to get pretty active here in about a week or so. And I believe that's about all I got here. I ran tonight's webcast at 24 frames per second. Some people have reported problems playing back the live cast, and I don't quite have that figured out. I don't know what's causing that. It could be encoding errors at YouTube. I don't know. But I figure we can just cut this back to 24 and then see how things are for a few days. And that's about all I got. Somebody asked if the New Madrid seismic zone is what hit Oklahoma. That's a different fault region. They're not really related there. Oklahoma is kind of its own thing, and that's from all the wastewater injection in that area. Those are shallow quakes. The New Madrid earthquake zone is much deeper. I can't remember exactly how deep, but I'm thinking maybe 10, 15 miles, something like that. So completely different mechanism there. Okay, that'll do it for me. I'm going to shut down here and check out those debates, I guess, and see if that's worth watching. And I will see you at the usual time tomorrow night. I appreciate you watching. And I don't think we have any debates coming up tomorrow. I think it's just going to be 8 o'clock, but there's going to be about 3 or 4 of those coming up between now and November. So I'm going to shift the weathercast time to 7:30 on each of those days, but I think we'll be doing 8 o'clock tomorrow. All right, take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.